Hey guys, Lazerblade here, and I just got a Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1070 video card, and I wanted to do a quick comparison. What you're seeing right now is 7 Days to Die using my old card, which was a GeForce, I believe it was also a Gigabyte GeForce GTX 750 Ti. And with that card, I was able to run on basically medium settings. View distance was turned down a little bit. None of the check marks were checked. No reflections, shadows were minimal. But it ran decent, it looked good. I could still get 60 frames per second most of the time. It certainly wasn't perfect. But of course, you have to keep in mind that 7 Days to Die is essentially right now an unoptimized mess. It doesn't matter what kind of machine you have, it's bound to struggle at least a little bit. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at what the 1070 does. And this is with the GTX 1070, everything on Ultra. I did leave a few check marks unchecked. I don't really care for motion blur, and I didn't need to have everything completely maxed. I don't like field of view above 60. I don't like that whole distortion effect that goes on. And I've seen plenty of videos with that effect turned on to know that it's really not my cup of tea. But with that in mind, I did have the shadows turned on and relatively high. I had reflections turned on, which again, reflections are essentially very unoptimized. The game is basically a CPU hog more than anything. So the GTX 1070 did not shine as well as I thought it would in 7 Days to Die. So if you can already run the game with relatively high settings and you're getting 60 frames per second and it looks good to you, you may get a slight enhancement. Upgrading from the 750 to the 1070 just simply for 7 Days to Die probably isn't going to be worth it. But let's take a look at another game. Here we have ARK Survival Evolved, and I know that a lot of people that play 7 Days to Die also play ARK. Not everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody likes dinosaurs, for instance. Prefer zombies or whatever. And ARK is another game that is currently in early access, in development, still in alpha. Now this particular clip comes from when I was playing with my son, and I was running a dedicated server on my laptop, which obviously, as you can tell, it was capable of handling it. But we had to run. Most people that play ARK, unless they have a really high-end rig, they tend to run with the settings turned down, and the game is still playable. It still looks good, especially if you get just the right settings. It's a beautiful game. But with a lot of the bells and whistles turned off, it really is. I mean, when you compare it to with all the bells and whistles turned on, or at least with a lot of the settings turned up, it's a really significant difference that you're looking at. So, but again, this was me and my son playing multiplayer. The laptop was doing some of the heavy lifting, doing the computing of the players' locations, the dinosaurs' locations, stuff like that, so that we could distance ourselves from each other and not have that. I guess when one person hosts, another person joins, they can only get so far away from the other player, and then they hit a brick wall. They basically can be rubber banded back towards the host. So having a dedicated server certainly helps with that. Probably has something to do with resource management. And obviously, with 7 Days to Die, we were running the same version, 14.7, with ARK. This was an older version from back in probably July. And it's updated since then. And here's what it looks like with the 1070. I've turned most of the things on that I could turn things up, still getting decent frame rate. Now this is with a recording going on. Obviously, with the recording shut off, those extra resources are available to the game, and I get 60 frames per second. It dips a little bit. It's not too bad, though. And the game looks beautiful. It looks absolutely gorgeous. You've got more lights, more shadows, all that stuff on the ground. It actually makes picking up stone, especially if you're not directly on the beach, a little bit more difficult. And I don't know how many times I tried to pick up a freaking seashell, you know what I mean? Underwater, huge difference. Like with my 750 Ti, when I would go underwater, the view distance was extremely short, it seemed to me, and it was much darker, like a really, really dark, muddy blue. With the 1070, looking underwater, I get not quite the view distance that I get on land, but I can clearly see sharks, manta rays, coals at a fairly decent distance. So you can see the danger before it comes to eat you, which is great. As far as like minor hiccups, it seems to recover a lot faster. Really, it's the beauty of it that's great. Anyway, that being said, if you're considering upgrading to a 1070, consider the games that you're going to be playing and make your choice from there. This has been Lazerblade, and I'll talk to you guys later.